The sun had barely risen over Atlanta when Monica Davis found herself staring at a bright orange eviction notice slapped on her apartment door. She wasn't behind on rent. She hadn't broken any rules. And yet, her world was about to collapse because her landlord, a wealthy property mogul named Richard Callahan, had decided she didn't belong there anymore. Not today, not tomorrow, immediately. But Richard had no idea who Monica really was. And by the time he found out, it would be far, far too late. Stay tuned till the end to unravel how this thrilling story ends. And don't forget to tell me where you're watching from down the comment section below, as well as click that subscribe button to join the family. Monica worked as a lawyer, not just any lawyer, one of the sharpest in the city. She spent years defending families, protecting single mothers, and fighting greedy corporations who thought they could trample the vulnerable. But on that Tuesday morning, none of her credentials mattered. The letter taped to her door was cold, cruel, and absolute. Vacate immediately. Failure to comply will result in locks changed. Her heart pounded as she read it. No notice? No hearing? No explanation, she whispered. It didn't make sense. Monica had lived in that apartment for 4 years. Rent was always on time, even early. She kept the place spotless. She knew her rights. This wasn't just eviction. This was power. And Richard Callahan loved power more than anything else. Richard Callahan was the kind of man who thought rules didn't apply to him. He owned half a dozen luxury complexes across Atlanta. He drove a black Mercedes, wore tailored suits, and treated his tenants like disposable chess pieces in his empire. When Richard walked into a room, people noticed. Not because he was charming, not because he was kind, but because he carried himself with an air of untouchable arrogance. And Monica, to him, she was nothing but a name on a lease, a name he had decided to erase. By noon, Richard himself showed up to the complex. His polished shoes clicked against the marble floor of the lobby as he barked orders to a pair of maintenance workers. Get her out. Change the locks. I don't care what excuse she gives. She's gone by sundown. The workers looked uneasy. But Mr. Callahan, she pays on time. Isn't there a... Richard cut him off with a glare sharp enough to silence anyone. This isn't up for debate. Just then, Monica arrived. She was dressed in a navy blue suit, briefcase in hand, fresh from a morning hearing. Her eyes locked on him. You must be Mr. Callahan. He smirked. And you must be Monica Davis. You got my notice, I presume? I did. And I'd like to know, on what ground are you evicting me? Richard didn't flinch. On the grounds that I don't want you here anymore. My buildings, my rules. Monica's jaw tightened. That's not how the law works. Richard chuckled, as though amused by a child correcting him. The law? The law is what people like me can afford to bend. Now pack your things. Monica could have exploded right there. She could have unleashed every ounce of legal fury she had inside her. But she didn't. Instead, she smiled. A quiet, knowing smile, and Richard hated it. Something funny? He snapped. Not funny, Monica replied calmly. Just ironic. Enlighten me. Monica closed her briefcase and adjusted her blazer. Let's just say, I know the Callahan family far better than you realize. Richard frowned, but before he could press further, a black Cadillac pulled up outside the building. Out stepped a frail but elegant woman in her late 70s, dressed in pearls and a cream-colored coat. Mother, Richard exclaimed, rushing to her side. What are you doing here? The woman leaned on her cane, her voice soft but commanding. I came for my appointment with my lawyer. Richard froze. Your lawyer? And then, as if scripted by fate itself, Monica walked to the doorway, extended her hand, and said warmly, Mrs. Callahan, right on time. Richard's face drained of color. His tenant, the woman he was humiliating in front of the entire lobby, was his mother's personal attorney. Mrs. Callahan smiled at Monica, completely oblivious to the tension. "I trust you received the documents I sent over, dear?" she asked. Monica nodded, all reviewed and prepared. "Shall we discuss them in my office?" She gestured toward her apartment, the very unit Richard was trying to throw her out of. The workers looked at each other nervously. Even they could see the storm brewing. Richard's lips tightened. He wanted to speak, to reassert control, but for once in his life, words failed him. Inside the apartment, Monica spread out paperwork across her dining table. Legal documents, estate plans, contracts, everything his mother had entrusted her with. Richard hovered at the doorway, fists clenched. "How long have you been representing my mother?" he demanded. Monica didn't look up. "Long enough to know she values transparency. Something you seem unfamiliar with." Mrs. Callahan tapped her cane lightly against the floor. "Richard, please. Monica is here because I trust her. She's protected this family's interests in ways you can't imagine." Richard's chest tightened. He hated being undermined, especially by a tenant, especially by a black woman he thought he could crush without consequence. But now she was sitting at his family's table, holding secrets he couldn't control. Richard tried to recover his composure. "You should have told me you were my mother's lawyer," he sneered. Monica finally looked up, her gaze sharp as steel. "And you should have respected the law before trying to illegally evict me. You see, Richard, unlike you, I don't need to hide behind money. I have the truth, and the truth doesn't bend." For the first time in years, Richard felt small. The maintenance workers outside whispered to each other. News was already spreading. Tenants were peeking from their doors. The mighty landlord was being humbled in front of everyone. And Monica, she was just getting started. Word of the confrontation traveled fast. By evening, half the complex knew. The rich landlord who boasted about power had tried to throw out his mother's own attorney. Some tenants even filmed the moment Monica escorted Mrs. Callahan safely inside, while Richard fumed helplessly in the background. The footage went viral within hours. "Justice served," one comment read. "Karma is real," another said. Finally, someone stood up to him. Richard's empire wasn't crumbling yet, but cracks were showing, and Monica knew exactly how to widen them. That night, Monica sat by her window, watching city lights flicker in the distance. Her phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. "Leave this case, or you'll regret it." She froze. This wasn't just about an eviction anymore. Something deeper was at play. And Richard, he wasn't going to back down quietly. The next morning, Monica prepared for court. She had filed an emergency injunction against Richard, ensuring he couldn't touch her lease. But as she stepped out of her apartment, she noticed something chilling. Her doorframe, scratched, her lock, tampered with, and on the floor, a single slip of paper. It read only 2 words. "Back off." Monica's pulse raced. She tightened her grip on her briefcase. This wasn't over. Not by a long shot. Because Monica Davis wasn't just any tenant. She was a lawyer. She was his mother's lawyer. And now, she was his worst nightmare. By 9 o'clock, Monica was already at Fulton County Courthouse. Her heels clicked against the polished floor as she carried her briefcase, filled with evidence of Richard's illegal eviction attempt. Inside the courtroom, Richard swaggered behind his expensive lawyer. His smirk was back, but Monica noticed something else. His confidence seemed forced. His eyes darted nervously, like a man who wasn't used to being challenged. The judge called the case. Davis versus Callahan Properties. Monica stood tall. "Your Honor, my landlord attempted to evict me without notice. without cause, and without following the most basic legal requirements under Georgia law. Furthermore, my residence was tampered with last night. This isn't just negligence, it's intimidation. The judge raised an eyebrow. Do you have proof? Monica pulled out her phone. Photos of the scratch lock. The threatening note. Gasps echoed from the gallery. Richard's attorney stammered, trying to object, but Monica's calm precision sliced through every argument. By the time she finished, the judge's voice was firm. Temporary injunction granted. Mr. Callahan, you are forbidden from altering or interfering with Ms. Davis's tenancy until further order. The gavel struck. Richard's smirk vanished. Monica had won round one. Outside the courthouse, Richard cornered Monica. His jaw was tight, his voice a venomous whisper. You think you've embarrassed me? This is just the beginning. I don't lose Ms. Davis. Remember that. Monica didn't flinch. She leaned in slightly and whispered back, maybe you should tell that to the judge. Richard froze, seething. For the first time, he realized something terrifying. Monica wasn't afraid of him, and that made her dangerous. Later that evening, Monica met with Mrs. Callahan, Richard's mother, at her apartment. The elderly woman sighed, folding her hands. I heard about what happened in court. Richard can be reckless. I apologize for his behavior. Monica shook her head gently. It's not just recklessness, Mrs. Callahan. He tampered with my door. Someone left a threat. The old woman's eyes darkened. That boy! He doesn't understand the consequences of his actions. He's always had a temper. Monica leaned forward. May I ask, why is he so determined to push me out? This isn't just about an apartment. Mrs. Callahan hesitated. Her lips trembled as though she were holding back something heavy. There are things about Richard's business you don't know, she whispered. And you may not want to know, but if he feels threatened, he'll stop at nothing. Her warning sent a chill through Monica's spine. Meanwhile, Richard sat in his penthouse office, whiskey in hand, as he plotted his next move. Find me dirt, he ordered his assistant. I don't care if she's never had a parking ticket. Dig into Monica Davis. There's always something to ruin someone with. The assistant shifted uncomfortably. What if there isn't? Richard's jaw clenched. Then make something up. The room went silent, because Richard Callahan wasn't just ruthless. He was desperate. 2 days later, Monica received a letter in the mail. Bold letters across the top. Notice of investigation. State Bar of Georgia. Her heart sank. Inside was an anonymous complaint accusing her of misconduct. Fabricated lies that, if proven, could jeopardize her career. Monica clenched the letter in her fist. She knew exactly who was behind it. Richard. This wasn't just eviction anymore. This was war. Instead of panicking, Monica acted. She called her colleague, a fellow attorney named Jordan. They're trying to discredit you, Jordan said. Classic intimidation. But listen, if Richard filed this and we prove it, that's retaliation, and it could bury him. Monica exhaled slowly. Then we gathered proof. That night, she combed through emails, voicemails, tenant reports, anything linking Richard to harassment, and what she found made her blood run cold. A chain of internal memos from Callahan Properties. One in particular read, certain tenants are to be removed swiftly. No paperwork delays. Handle it quietly. And the list? Monica's name was at the top, armed with evidence. Monica confronted Richard in the lobby of the building the next morning. Tenants gathered, pretending not to watch. She held up the memo. Care to explain this, Richard? He glanced at it, then laughed coldly. You think one piece of paper scares me? Do you know how easy it is to make documents disappear? You're playing in my world now. Monica's voice rang out so everyone could hear. Your world is built on intimidation and fraud. But the law doesn't belong to you. It belongs to all of us. Whispers spread like wildfire. Tenants pulled out their phones, recording, and Richard realized he had just walked into his own trap. That evening, Mrs. Callahan summoned both of them to her home. Her voice trembled with fury. "Richard, I raised you better than this. Threatening tenants? Tampering with locks? Filing false complaints? This is criminal behavior." Richard's face flushed. "Mother, you don't understand. She's ruining everything." Mrs. Callahan pointed her cane at him. "No, she's holding you accountable. Something I should have done years ago." Richard's eyes burned with rage. "You're siding with her? With a tenant over your own son?" Mrs. Callahan's reply was steady. "I'm siding with justice." Days passed, and Richard's empire began to crack. Videos of his confrontation with Monica spread online. Journalists started asking questions. Tenants threatened a class action lawsuit. But Richard wasn't ready to surrender. Late one night, as Monica returned home, she noticed headlights trailing her car. She pulled into her complex, but the vehicle didn't leave. A black SUV, windows tinted, engine running. Her phone buzzed again. Another message. Last warning. Leave or else. Her pulse thundered. She rushed upstairs, double-locked her door, and pressed her back against it. This wasn't just harassment anymore. This was danger. The next morning, Monica decided enough was enough. She contacted the police, handing over every scrap of evidence. But as she prepared her next legal move, she received a call that froze her blood. It was Mrs. Callahan, her voice shaky, terrified. "Monica, something's happened. Richard, he's gone too far. I don't feel safe." The line crackled, then went dead. Monica grabbed her keys, panic rising. When she reached Mrs. Callahan's estate, the front door was wide open, the house silent, a broken vase on the floor, and on the dining table, in neat handwriting, a chilling note. "Lawyers can't protect everyone." Monica's breath caught in her throat. Was Mrs. Callahan still alive? Had Richard crossed the line from intimidation to something far darker? Monica's hands trembled as she picked up the note, and she knew this battle had escalated into something she could no longer fight alone. Red and blue lights flashed against the Callahan mansion as officers combed through the home. Detective Harris, a sharp, no-nonsense woman with piercing eyes, walked Monica through the scene. Furniture overturned. No sign of forced entry. Whoever came in was let in. Monica's heart sank. That meant Mrs. Callahan had trusted the person who took her, and there was only one man who fit that description. Her son. "Detective," Monica said firmly, "you need to look at Richard." Harris raised a brow. "You're his tenant. You're also his lawyer's lawyer. I get it, but accusing him without proof could backfire." Monica leaned closer, her voice sharp as a blade. "Richard doesn't just break rules. He breaks people. And if you don't move fast, his own mother will pay the price." The next morning, Richard stormed into the precinct. Cameras swarmed. He held up his hands like a grieving son, his voice dripping with false concern. "My mother is missing, and instead of helping, the police are wasting time chasing baseless accusations against me." Detective Harris stood tall. "Mr. Callahan, you were the last person seen with your mother. That makes you a person of interest." Reporters shouted questions. "Did you fight with her, Richard? Is it true your tenant is her lawyer?" Richard snapped. "I would never hurt my mother. Anyone saying otherwise is lying." But Monica, standing in the back of the room, noticed something the cameras missed. His hands. They trembled, not from grief, from fear. That night, Monica sat at her dining table, files spread out before her. Mrs. Callahan had trusted her with confidential documents. estate plans, corporate filings, drafts of her will. As Monica flipped through the pages, her eyes widened. A new clause, signed but not yet finalized. In the event of my passing, all Callahan properties and assets shall be transferred not to my son, Richard, but to the Callahan Foundation under the management of Monica Davis. Monica's breath caught. Richard wasn't just trying to evict her. He wasn't just retaliating. He had motive if his mother vanished. He stood to lose everything. And Monica, she stood in the way. 2 nights later, Monica returned home late from the office. As she approached her apartment door, she felt it immediately. Something was off. The faint smell of smoke. A shadow flickering across the hallway. And then she saw it. Her doorframe, scratched again. But this time, when she reached the knob, it turned easily. Her stomach dropped. The door was unlocked. Slowly, she pushed it open. The apartment was dark, silent. She reached for her phone flashlight and froze. On her kitchen counter sat a single envelope. She opened it with trembling hands. Inside was a photo. Mrs. Callahan, bound to a chair, eyes wide with terror. On the back, 3 words scrawled in ink. "You're next, Monica." The next day, Monica gave the photo to Detective Harris. "This is proof," Monica insisted. "He's holding her somewhere." Harris nodded grimly. "We'll trace it, but until then, be careful." That night, Monica triple-locked her door. She barely slept, but at 2 a.m., she woke to the sound of footsteps outside her apartment. She grabbed her phone, recording silently. Through the peephole, she saw 2 masked men, tools in hand. They tried the lock, whispered to each other. Her heart thundered as she dialed 911. Sirens arrived within minutes. The men fled, but one was caught. When officers pulled off his mask, Monica gasped. It wasn't a stranger. It was Richard's head of security. At the precinct, Detective Harris slammed the photo and the masked intruder's ID onto the table. "This ties straight back to you, Richard." Richard scoffed. "Circumstantial. My security works for me." "Yes, but if he acted illegally, that's on him." Monica's voice cut through like steel. "Then explain this." She slid the draft will across the table. Richard's face blanched. His mask of arrogance cracked. You weren't supposed to see that." Monica leaned forward, her voice calm and deadly. "You had every reason to make your mother disappear. And now, so does the world." Detective Harris whispered to Monica after the meeting. "We're close, but not close enough. If we push too early, his lawyers bury this. We need him to slip." Monica nodded. "Then let's make him." They devised a plan. Spread rumors that the will had already been filed with the court. Leak hints that Monica had more evidence hidden. If Richard thought he was cornered, he'd act out. And when he did, they'd catch him. 3 nights later, Monica left her office, exhaustion weighing on her shoulders. The streets were eerily quiet. As she approached her car, headlights flared. A van screeched to a stop. Men jumped out. Hands grabbed her. A cloth pressed over her mouth. Her screams were muffled as darkness closed in. When she woke, her wrists were bound to a chair. The air smelled of oil and rust. A warehouse. Her head throbbed as she lifted her eyes. And there he was, Richard Callahan, sitting across from her, smiling coldly. Well, Monica," Richard sneered. "The righteous lawyer, the untouchable tenant, thought you could humiliate me in court, embarrass me online, steal my mother's loyalty." He leaned closer, voice venomous. "You should have backed off when you had the chance." Monica met his gaze. "Steady. Where is she, Richard?" His grin widened. "Funny you should ask." He snapped his fingers. A door creaked open. And there, shrouded in shadows, sat Mrs. Callahan. Frail, terrified, chained to a chair. Monica's chest tightened. She was alive, but barely. Richard's laughter echoed in the warehouse. You wanted justice? Here's justice. My mother and her lawyer, together, both silenced forever. He circled Monica slowly, his footsteps echoing against the concrete floor. You think anyone's coming to save you? The police? The tenants? No one will find you here. He leaned down, whispering against her ear. By tomorrow morning, you'll both be gone, and the world will believe you just walked away. The lights flickered, the door slammed shut, and the warehouse fell into suffocating darkness. Monica's pulse pounded in her ears. She wasn't just fighting for her career anymore. She wasn't just fighting for tenants. She was fighting for her life. Monica's breath came shallow, ragged, as the warehouse swallowed her in darkness. The scrape of Richard's shoes echoed as he paced around her chair, his arrogance filling the silence. Across the room, Mrs. Callahan whimpered faintly. The sound cut through Monica's chest like a blade. She wasn't just defending a tenant case anymore. She wasn't just fighting a corrupt landlord. This was survival. Monica swallowed her fear, forcing her voice steady. Richard, you think this end would be tied to a chair? No, this is where it all begins. Richard chuckled low. You still don't get it, do you? Nobody cares about you. Nobody cares about her. He jerked his chin toward his mother. I own the buildings. I own the courts. I own the police. His smile twisted. And soon, I'll own your silence too. But even as he boasted, Monica's mind worked like a machine. She replayed every detail, every step of her capture, every sound in the warehouse, the faint drip of water, the hum of a distant generator, and yes, something subtle, the soft chirp of a cell phone not far away, one of Richard's men. Careless, if she could reach it, Monica, the weak, trembling voice came from across the room. Mrs. Callahan. Her eyes glistened in the dim light, filled with fear, but also with something else. Resolve. You can't let him win, she whispered. Monica nodded once, subtle, her lips tightening. She wouldn't. Not tonight. Richard leaned close again, his breath hot against her ear. You know what I hate most about you? You made me look weak. In front of tenants. In front of my mother, in front of the world. Monica tilted her head, staring at him. You don't need my help for that, Richard. You do it just fine on your own. His face twisted with rage. He raised his hand, ready to strike, when a phone buzzed in the pocket of his jacket. He froze, checked the screen. His expression faltered. For the first time that night, Richard looked afraid. Scene 5, the recording. Monica's heart skipped. She recognized the faint echo of her own voice, recorded during the kidnapping. Her phone, still recording, and someone had it. Richard's eyes darted toward the shadows where one of his guards stood, phone in hand. The man's face pale, uncertain. Richard roared, "Turn that off." But it was too late. Outside, the warehouse doors exploded open. Flashlights cut through the darkness. Police, drop your weapons. Chaos erupted. Richard's men scrambled, some dropping their tools, others reaching for them. Detective Harris stormed in, gun raised, her team sweeping the floor with precision. Monica's heart soared with relief. The recording had worked. The evidence had led them here. Richard spun, snarling. You led them here? Monica smirked through her exhaustion. No, Richard. You did. You never could keep your hands clean. Officers swarmed the warehouse, tackling Richard's men. But Richard grabbed the nearest object, a jagged piece of pipe, and pressed it against Monica's throat. Back off, he shouted, dragging her close. Or she dies. The room froze, guns raised, tension thick enough to choke. Monica's pulse hammered, but her mind stayed sharp. "You won't do it," she whispered. Richard's eyes blazed. "Try me?" "You won't," she repeated, her voice like steel. "Because if you kill me, the recording already out there destroys you. Every paper, every channel. Your empire crumbles." He faltered for just a second, and in that second, Detective Harris lunged. The pipe clattered to the ground. Officers tackled Richard, pinning him hard to the concrete. He thrashed, shouting, his voice breaking. "You can't do this to me. I'm Richard Callahan. I own this city." But his words fell flat now, echoing against the cold warehouse walls. Mrs. Callahan sobbed with relief as officers freed her from her chains. Monica staggered to her side, wrapping her arms around the frail woman. "You're safe now," she whispered. But deep inside, she knew it wasn't over. Not yet. Weeks later, the case of State versus Richard Callahan drew national attention. The arrogant landlord turned would-be criminal sat in court, shackled, his once immaculate suit wrinkled and stained. Monica sat at the prosecution's table, assisting Detective Harris and the state's attorneys. Every photo, every recording, every piece of evidence was laid bare, and Richard's empire unraveled before his eyes. Witnesses came forward. Tenants he'd bullied, employees he'd silenced. Even former allies, desperate to save themselves, testified against him. Monica's voice rang clear and sharp as she addressed the jury. This isn't just about one landlord. It's about power, abuse, a man who thought laws didn't apply to him. But today, justice speaks louder than wealth, louder than intimidation, louder than Richard Callahan. The jury's verdict came swift and crushing, guilty on all counts. And Richard was escorted out of the courtroom in chains and shame. Sometimes, stories like this remind us of a deeper truth. Power can be abused. Justice can be delayed. But courage, the courage to stand up, speak out, and fight for what's right, has the power to change everything. Monica's fight wasn't just against a corrupt landlord. It was a lesson for all of us that no matter how intimidating the challenge, truth and resilience are stronger than fear. And maybe that's a takeaway. When you see injustice, don't look away. When someone tries to silence you, don't let them, because sometimes the most powerful voice is the one that refuses to be broken. If this story gripped you, don't stop here. Subscribe now and keep following our channel, because we bring you more powerful stories just like this. And trust me, what's coming next will stay with you. So stay inspired, stay alert, and keep watching.